Okay, let's get this party started. You can join me in the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much and welcome. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, we do. 7 new business. C would be staff nominations at Kelly Chapman, the speech at Somerset. Staff appointments, Bethany Walters at Tech 2, Special Ed at Somerset. Brittany Turner at Tech 1, Special Ed, Comas Regional High School. And Stephanie Joseph at Tech 1, Special Ed, Comas Regional Middle School.
Thank you very much. This is the time that we open up our agenda to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that has something that they would like to bring in front of the board? If you could just tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening. My name is Jessica Treadwell. I am an Aetna resident, a parent of 2 RSU 19 students, and the president of the Aetna Dixmont Plymouth PTO. And tonight I am representing a group of Aetna, Dixmont, and Plymouth families that would like to discuss 2 issues that need to be addressed by the school board. The first issue is the maintenance of the EDPS soccer/ball field across from the school. We understand that it's owned by RSU 19, and as of the school board meeting notes dated April 12, 2022, it was going to be leased to the town of Aetna. And according to an email I received from Mr. Hammer yesterday in response to this issue, the district is still in limbo with the town of Aetna, and that is why the field hasn't been maintained. A few citizens had offered to mow the lawn, myself included, so Mike said that would be possible if the Aetna Rec Department submitted their liability returns beforehand. At this time, the field is wet, it's really tall, and it's going to need a tractor and clipping removal. I did bring photos if anybody wants to see any updated photos. Therefore, this answer is not acceptable. The land is owned by RSU 19, therefore the rec department shouldn't be liable for maintenance or inherit the insurance liability risks that come with such maintenance. That responsibility should fall to the district. The other rec departments at the school district, Tri-Town, Newport, and Corinna, they're all able to use their home/town fields and facilities to practice soccer and host games. We are the only rec department that doesn't have this option because the only soccer field available to us hasn't been maintained. So we are currently practicing on a baseball field in Dixmont because it's the only available location. This impacts the kids negatively because they don't get to experience practicing on a real soccer field or able to host any games. So this is unacceptable. The lease agreement holdup shouldn't get in the way from the fact that the district is the current owner of this property, and therefore they should maintain it until that changes. And please note that we will be at the building committee meeting tomorrow night and expect to have an update on what the plan for this field is at that time. The second issue I'd like to address is the gate at the EDPS school. The gate is unnecessary and the school should not be gated after school hours for the following reasons. 1, it sends a message to families that we are not welcome. 2, accessing the PTO shed can only be done during school hours, which causes scheduling problems for the PTO members because we work during those hours. In addition to this, it is difficult to access the school fields and playgrounds to plan events for rec or PTO without needing a school employee to unlock the gate. We're the only school in the district that has a gate. This sends a message of exclusion. All the schools in this district should have the same rules/accessibility. There should be no exceptions. There are several other RSU 19 families that feel this way. Therefore, we ask that the gates either be removed or remain unlocked after school hours. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mike, is there anything that you can say at this point? If not, we will definitely turn it over to the building committee for them to discuss.
During my report, I'll give some updates on the field. It's been complicated, but I would say that you'd have to put the gates in front of the building committee tomorrow night if they're willing to address that. That's all I can tell you about that.
So we have heard. Thank you very much, and somebody will get back to you, or if you're going to the building committee, maybe there will be some conversation then.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are board members allowed to say anything now or no?
No, this is the time for public.
Thank you, Jessica.
Anyone else? If not, we will move on. The approval of minutes of the August 9th meeting. Do I hear a motion? In a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Administrative communications. I believe we are in our packet. Any one of the administrators have anything that they want to add to that? No, thank you very much. Superintendent communication.
Well, some of the board members did receive some communication on the field, not the whole board, I don't know. I saw at least the one from Plymouth and then Dixmont. So I can go into that communication if it's related to what was brought public comment, and it will be in my report. So I don't know if you want me to go into my report, or if anybody else wants to report on any other communication.
You can slide right into that.
Okay. So most of you know, I mean, if we can back up, so the building committee's seen them at the Dixmont field a couple different times. And first, we thought about keeping it, then we said, let's lease it, and then it's gone back to let's get rid of it. And so each time that we have that conversation, I try to gather more information. And right now, so the lease, I thought the lease was a good idea because it was every 4 years, and if it wanted to be renewed, then it would be renewed. And I thought that was what we were doing. So then all of a sudden the town said no, they said they didn't want to do that, and then they wanted just to have the property back. So I've been continuing, so then once, that's sometimes easier said than done, so I've been looking, our attorneys and I have been looking at the tax maps and the maps to see what the property was, because a lot of the deeds say that it's the whole 76 acres. Finally, we found out that there's two separate pieces of tax map where it breaks out that field. While we're also discussing that piece of it, the attorneys feel like, and I found out, because I went and talked to Andy, I think after the last building committee meeting, I said I would go see Andy Watts. Now, I didn't know that he wasn't on the board anymore, but he's still closely connected to this issue. And I was trying to get to the fact of, if we give this piece of property back, will it stay for kids? Because there isn't any doubt that this piece of property, if kids are going to be on it, then that's what it should be about. But there is some worry that once you get rid of a piece of property, it's gone forever, and if things change, we won't have that piece of property as a district. So the attorney was like, and I found out that there was one thing in the lease that the town didn't want in there, because it said that if they did something to the property, they'd have to return it to our standards, and that's just a blanket word. And if they'd have said, Mike, we don't like that language, can you please take it out? I absolutely would have taken it out, but there hasn't been any conversation specifically between me and the select. So the attorney, as of yesterday or Friday, is going to try to track down one of the select people and see if we simplified the lease, whether that would be something that would be favorable in terms of getting into the town. We wouldn't be maintaining it. The reason why it's not being maintained, Jessica, is that it's been to the building committee a couple times, and they chose not to do it. I cannot be more honest than that, because it's a financial burden. We were trying to be in the process of getting it to the town as quickly as possible. I truly knew that Susie was trying to, there was going to be some soccer. I didn't know we were playing soccer all the time. She asked us to get it mowed. I asked Lisa if we could get it mowed. It didn't come to be. Now, if it needs to get a tractor so that you can play some games out there, I'd like to know how many games, and if we have to put resources in that, like somebody from the bus garage to go mow it, and then keep mowing it and get the stuff off it, that's up to the board and the building committee. So where the lease stands now is that Sarah, our attorney's going to try to call Aetna and say, if we give you a very simple lease, will you lease it, and if we see that that works. If they don't want to do that, then we're going to try to break that piece of property out, which is just the field, and the board would have to agree that they want to deed that over to the town. In talking to Bill Stockmar this afternoon about the second thing that I have to bring up would be the central office. He's indicating the fact that we can decide right now that we don't need that piece of property.
Yes.
But we can't look down the road 20 years and see what type of event or what type of use that field might need. So we've all had those conversations multiple times. Nobody wants to put this to bed any more than I do. But when you start thinking about leases, people say yes, they want it. People change on the board, on the select board. People's opinions change on this board. It gets complicated, and I feel bad that the kids are involved, but it's not as easy as saying that we chose as a district to not take care of that piece of property like we would have for Heartland. We don't manage some of the fields for rec in Heartland. Corinna, we mowed it for a little while, but then we stopped mowing, and so we would have to have a board discussion about which fields we want to maintain for rec programs versus what we maintain for our own school teams. And right now, you know, we're at the point where we maintain what we maintain for school teams. It's changed in the past because we used to use that for, it was K-8 school, now it's a K-4 school, so the use has changed. That's where it stands. I don't take any questions, but it really needs to get back to the full board to decide, because we've never been there. We've had 2 or 3 different things go around in circles, and we've never had the board say, we want to keep it, we don't want to keep it, we're going to do a lease, we're not going to do a lease.
Susan?
Well, I don't recall a whole entire board conversation recently about it. So it's been, we can say it's been on the building committee, but I don't think it's really been brought to the whole board. Well, when was it?
Last year.
What month?
June.
It's been a year.
No, it's only a few months.
We talked about leasing it, but we didn't talk about it again after the fact.
No.
And so the situation, there's a back history to this. And so I see it as an Etna resident and the rec director as 2 different issues. One of the issues is the town of Etna owned that land way long before RSU. We willingly gave, and I say we because I'm an Etna resident, we willingly gave that land over to the RSU 19. Why would you not willingly give it back? So that's one issue. The other issue is, unless you are an Etna Dixmont resident, you have no idea right now what that looks like. It's disgusting and it's very embarrassing. And when you drive by, and I know several people here have seen that field, it's terrible. And it is owned by the RSU 19, and it really is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable because I have said all summer long in emails and in private conversations that our kids use that for soccer. So now we are literally in a baseball field. It's not okay. Who maintains the soccer field in Heartland?
The community center does.
By the school?
Yeah, we don't use that field for rec.
Okay, but that's already set up though. The school that was associated to, what'd you say?
We don't use the school at the field for rec.
No, we used to though, right?
During, I think at the beginning, but then we've been moved up there. Not this year, not for the last 2 years.
It's been quite a long time. The last people that used it was RSU 19 kids because the soccer fields over here weren't adequate.
Those were the games, apologies.
I'm talking about the one near the newest school.
Yes.
Right.
There's a big honking feet, you know.
We're not currently
Yes.
using that.
Okay, so it's just the grass is just tall there too?
There.
It's part of where the school uses it.
I want to know, is the grass tall there? It's right beside the school.
No, it's a mowed field.
The
They
field
use
is
it.
moved as part of our school, we use it as part of the school, no one else uses it other than the school at this time. In the past, the high school has used it because.
Right, but it's mowed, it's maintained,
Correct, it's not used by rec.
but it's maintained. That actually is my point though, it is maintained. And this field is across from the Etna Dixmont School. It looks really poor and it should be embarrassing to people. It's embarrassing to me. So those are 2 separate issues really. At the end of the day, whatever, I don't really care. The selectmen do whatever they want, they say whatever they want, don't care. And Andy Watson is not there anymore, so he doesn't have any say. Sure, it'd be great if Aetna could have it back, that'd be awesome, but if it's not going to be, it does need to be maintained, and I don't know why anybody here would disagree with that.
I'm from Dixmont. I disagree with it. I don't think it really reflects on the school at all because it's not a property the school is actually using.
So you don't care that the kids that go to that school can't play soccer, that they have to go to Newport? That parents in Dixmont are poor and can't afford to drive their children to Newport every day?
The rec program is not part of RSU 19.
Nobody's arguing that, Chris. Did anybody say that they were together?
You said it was the students couldn't
It's
play
the
soccer.
same students. What students
Yes,
do
it
you think
is.
they would be?
Yes, it is, but
Uh,
they're two separate pieces.
We're
Two
not
separate
going to-
organizations.
We're not going to debate this exclusively at the school board level. It is going to be put into the building committee, and therefore, there can be all kinds of conversation there. Jennifer?
My only concern with that, and I totally am okay with that, my only concern with that is it's going to be winter and they're not going to be using the field by the time we get it back to the board anyway.
Right. Couldn't use it this spring either.
Because it'll go to the building committee, before it comes back to the board, it'll be mid-October and they'll be done anyway.
Yes, you're right.
Typically,
Couldn't use the gym last
soccer
winter either.
is 6 or 7 weeks long. Is that something that we can mow the lawn or across the
It
field?
needs to be hayed at this point.
Excuse me. So is there anything that we can do for the next 4 or 5 weeks to take care of it, and then a decision made, a recommendation made at the building level to come back here for us to put our vote?
Yep, if you want, if the board wants it mowed, we'll take some of the people from the bus garage and take the tractor up there and mow it, and then try to push off all the grass that we can.
If the district allows the rec department to use that field, where does the liability lay? Does it lay on the district because it's a district-owned property? Or does it lie with the rec department? Because for being on, I was on the St. Albans Rec Department for a long time, and we were not allowed to use the school fields because of the liability.
We have liability insurance, we always have. We share
Right, but
that.
it does not matter if the school, if that's school-owned property. It would fall on the property owner.
Any type of property that is leased, unless there's a physical agreement, you can let someone borrow your stuff, but it's still your stuff, you're still responsible. RSU 19 as a liability, because they own the property, are liable for anything happens to that property, regardless of who's on it. It's no different if I went to your home and you had a rotten step and I fell through, that's your responsibility to fix that on an insurance standpoint. That is across the board with any liability, any insurance, any property, anything. But I will say, I'm 100% on board that if we have a property, we should be maintaining that property at all times, regardless, because that is still a liability for us. If there's something hidden in the grass, there's kids out there playing, that is our responsibility to take care of anything that needs to be cut.
How much would it cost for us to mow it, Mike? Is any reasonable idea? How much did it cost for us to maintain it when we wasn't?
$6,000 a year.
6,000?
Yep.
Pennies in today's world. On a $30 million budget, $6,000 to have a recreation field?
When we were pinching pennies, it was important,
I understand.
and now it's not, so I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. It's-
In the past, as the rec department provided the liability insurance to us to use this, what was the agreement in the past?
When any group uses a facility, they fill out a building use form or a field use form, and they provide their own insurance. So like Newport, if they use these fields, they provide a waiver if there was an event at Hartman. And they want to use that in building use form, like men's basketball. They have to have a provider from the rec department.
But there's no lease required for that, they just have to provide
They're
liability
using our
insurance.
property.
There needs to be an agreement in place, that's
Right.
the difference.
Which we do that, we've always done that.
What was that?
Would you entertain a motion?
Yes.
I move that we mow the rec field at the Dixmont School.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion?
The whole point of this, we were looking to save money, like you were saying before. I had personally been looking to have the board, the RSU, transfer the property back to Aetna. It was met with resistance last time. People did not want to do that. There were a myriad of reasons. We don't need to go back into them again. But now we're at the point where it's impacting the community down there. And I think we should expedite getting this back to the town. If there is a way that they can provide liability insurance and have them mow it, I think I'd be okay with that, but not us. We made a plan, and the plan was to save the money on mowing that thing because the school's not using it. It's just the rec department.
Any other?
Was we mowing it, or was that part of the contract to have?
Part of the contract.
So we're gonna be, so from this point on, we're planning on starting to do some of our own mowing. The $6,000 is gonna go down when we have our own employees doing it.
We haven't even, we've batted around the idea of having our own people mowing, but that's a whole nother conversation. This is going to be hiring somebody, either the person who's mowing it out there, or if I can talk to Dean, then we can get it done.
So
it's two different things, because I think some board members want to do this as economically as possible, because that was the motion, and that was the decision coming out of the building committee, and now we're changing to taking responsibility for it. So I'll do it as economically as I possibly can. If our mowing person will come do it and take it on, we'll try that. If not, it will be maybe Dean.
So the dynamics of it is that the rec committee fills out the forms like every other situation. They can maintain the field as long as they've got liability insurance attached to that form.
We've never asked anybody to maintain our facilities. Once they get into the building use agreement with us, we take care of it. So we've never asked them to, hey, you filled out a building use agreement, you're going to mow it, so
yeah, but we're worried about it. Well, I regress a little bit. 6,000 is a fair amount of money. But if we're going to mitigate that by either they mowing it somehow like that, we're only worried about the maintenance of the field. In the meantime, the kids can't, I mean, they're kicking a soccer ball into Route 7, whatever. But I think there's an easier solution. And Dave, you know, I'm not in favor of putting it back to the town. I'm one of the steadfast people on that topic, so.
Jessica?
We have to understand it's the middle of September, so there's maybe a month of mowing that, so it's not like we're gonna be absorbing this cost for the winter months. So hopefully within that time, we can find a solution from the district to the town or whatever that decision is gonna be. But I really think that we should be supporting the kids within our district and giving them a place so they can have their extracurricular activities. It's gonna be a very small fee, it's 4 weeks.
Well, and I was just gonna say, I bet that 6,000 probably also included the softball field in the back of the school, which is not gonna be used by rec.
No, it
Mark?
was just that field.
Oh, that's shocking.
Mark?
Well, all I was going to say is I'm in favor of the motion. I think we should mow it, whether it makes for a perfect soccer field this year or not. At the very least, the field will have been somewhat
You have to maintain
prepared for next year. Because if all that tall grass is allowed to mat down, it'll just make it more difficult in the future.
Yeah.
I think it's worth chopping it up.
Any other new comments or questions? If not, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Those opposed?
Thank you.
It passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
Board Chair?
So I got more.
Oh, go ahead.
So as we were discussing the leases with the attorney, we discussed getting rid of liquidating the central office building, and Bill Stockmeyer said, kind of hold everything, that there's a statute that it's not really a school, but it's a school property, and so what has to happen is that he's drafting a letter to my email right now saying that we have to offer it to the town of Newport at fair market value, and if they set aside that money and they wanted to buy it for that fair market value, they would have the first refusal just because it's in the town of Newport. So I sent an email to to Jim, I don't think the town, I don't want to speak for them, set that aside, but we will be making that, we have to do that as part of this process to offer to them to see if they wanted to do it, and then obviously, whether we get it from the town of Newport or whether we get it from some private person, we're going to still get, you know, the fair market value, so that money will go back into the budget for all taxpayers. So he also said, well, like, what you really should do is put it on the June warrant and have the townspeople vote on that. And I'm like, I get you, Bill, you're being very good to protect us, but I think by at least going that one step to ask the town, they won't ever be able to come back and say, you didn't do it. Potentially somebody from the public say, wait, we never got a chance to vote on it. I feel like time is of the essence for this, as it's a topic right in front of the building committee tomorrow night too, and back to the board. We should just go the route to at least offer it to the town of Newport. And so that's what I'm going to do on your behalf and see where it goes from there, and then we'll discuss it further tomorrow night. But I thought the whole board should know some of these nuances. And Bill will look at me and say, it's terribly written statute, but there's not much that we can do. And again, he was the one that, on a side note, was, you know, we're all here right now, but the decisions that we have to make down the road are for people that we, you know, don't even exist, and issues that don't even exist right now. So, you know, he does try to look out for our best interests.
Like when those old schools went back to the town, did it go out to the whole town?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't go out to all the voters because they gave it to us, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to give it back to each town. This piece of property is different because it was a lease to purchase. It was separate. You know, back in the day, you used to get money in your budget for that type of thing, so it's a different animal. But when we did close, part of your plan, when we closed all these buildings, it was to give them right back to the towns. We didn't feel at that point in time that we were going to hold on to them and try to sell them, because that's a risky solution. Yeah. This piece is a completely different animal.
All right. Anything else?
I think that's
Board chair? You? You're all done. Thank you. I don't really have anything other than, you know, we're moving on. We've got, most of our committees have started already, and it's going to be a good year. Reports of special committees. Budget is not met, but
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Building.
Great, we met on August 10th, which was just prior to the last meeting, and we'll meet tomorrow, right after this meeting. We had a number of things that had been sitting on the back burner for the summer, but we had brought up. Building security. One of the things we wanted to make sure was all the buildings were thinking in terms of limited entrance access, main entrances requiring pass keys or granted access by office through a buzzer. Delivery entrances must be opened by the staff. They don't just sit open waiting for FedEx to show up, for example. And we also asked that the administrators remind all of their staff and faculty not to prop doors and to make sure that doors are closed when they are done. Somerset Water, the building is up, the tanks are inside. The well driller is going to connect the water to the building, and the components for the tank monitors and electrical connection to the alarm system also has to come in. And so part of that also involves the idea that the monitors for the water system can connect back to Alicia's automatic alert system, so if something goes wrong, she sees it, so they have to wire that as well. One of the perennial problems we sometimes have are some of the elementary school roofs with Somerset and Sebasticook. So one of the questions was simply, are they all functional and they're shedding water and not leaking? EDPS has one small leak near one of the drains, which is fairly common for that kind of roof. And we have as you remember, we set aside in one of our board meetings contingency funds for roof repairs. The roofs are at or near their expected end of service, and so we expect them to be replaced eventually. And for several years, Alicia has built and had in place plans for section by section replacement. However, if you start replacing roofs and you start replacing sections, you have to walk on other sections, and that may create leaks that you didn't have before. So, as long as they're not actually leaking, the tendency is to leave it be and keep evaluating them on an annual basis and then act on it as we need to. Ventilation projects should be completed at all the elementary schools. The graphics, which is the word that these folks use for linking the digital controls to the IT networks, are completed after school starts and before winter, so that's an ongoing project even now. And then the EDS field we've talked about. Winter heat, wood chips have decreased our oil consumption by about 45,000 gallons district-wide. And we're going to wait for an opportunity to bid number 2 fuel when we need it, or that should be coming up fairly soon. Playground surfaces, I've had some questions about why we had so many piles of that. And one of the things that they do is that the requirements are that we have a 12-inch layer of chips at each fall location throughout the playground. And once they go on, and within about a month, children will compact a base about 6 inches. So just the running around stops it down. And then winter snow will compact the base another 10 to 12 inches before spring. So they continue to purchase chips each year and maintain safety standards. That's really the answer that we can provide for anybody who asks why there are so many big piles of chips. The punch list for the new building is almost complete. It is complete now?
No.
No, not quite. And also some of the stuff that is now being pushed from the punch list to warranty work. So in other words, it's no longer an issue of completing what should have been built. It's now an issue of fixing something that wasn't done right. Entrance door manufacturer is sending new doors for the high school, and a representative will be on site to observe the American Glass installation of the doors, because there's an argument between those two companies to who is at fault for the current doors not fitting. Fixtures that tested positive for lead have mostly been removed and examined. In most cases, what was found was lead solder. Even though so after replacement, they will be retested. And then we'll be continuing to talk about the superintendent's office.
One thing else under security is that in Newport, the PD asked for keys to the buildings. I think it's Vasco in this one, so that and it's a master key. So if they come to a door, they need to come here, and they're going to get in the building. They have keys to get into this building. So that was something that they requested, and that we should ended up delivering. I think it's a good idea. There's no sense in saying, well, I knocked on the door, nobody let me in, I got a key and I can get into this building, and I think it's Sebasco, just because that's what Newport PD requested. Whether the sheriff's department would come along and ask that for Somerset and Sebasco, we would do the same thing if they.
Any questions for the building?
I just have a question. It's nothing on here, but the part of the parking lot at Dixmont was tarred. Is the other where the parents have to drive in? Is there a plan for that? That's really bad on vehicles.
The end of Raven Road there?
The circle that we have to drive in and we do drop off now. I guess we're not going back to normal. So
that is paved, sort of.
You want to?
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Right?
It's in like 5 different layers.
And now since COVID, using the circle to drop our kids off instead of going back to the old way that we used to, we're forced to drive there. It's not good on,
Yeah,
it's in poor condition.
that should have at least gravel put in it and smoothed out. It's got big ruts.
You can discuss that tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you.
I'll put it on the list.
Lots of, well, I just, parents come to me and complain, and I
That
don't
goes to the
blame
budget.
them.
It was discussed at the budget.
On the field, nothing over there to smooth.
Any other questions for building? Moving along. Education, Ryan's not here, and there was an education meeting. I don't want, what do you want to give us a little highlight?
Yeah, I mean, he's got pretty comprehensive notes in the report. Basically, we talked about the being at school, a lot of conversation about responsive classroom. We got a tremendous amount of interest from our teachers to come in and discuss that. I mean, that's you probably hear about it if you have kids, morning meeting, first 6 weeks of school, establishing routines, focuses on our behaviors and a lot of different things that carry throughout the whole year and establish kind of a way you're going to run your classroom that's consistent across the whole district, which it doesn't matter which classroom you're in, you kind of feel the same way. Also, basically, just how the first couple of days went pretty smoothly in all the buildings. That was all the staff. And then we went into the evaluation process for the principals. It's kind of, and if you remember last year, we weren't really get that there was legislation that kind of backed that off where everybody had everything else on their plate. But we met as administrators this summer and kind of re-looked at the tool. Mary did some nice work, so it's easy for the principals to walk through the pieces. And it's easy for me to walk through the pieces and get that back up and running. And then also, this is the exact similar process that it's called LEPEG for us at the leadership level, and then it's the TPEG as the teachers go through the same process and have the same, a lot of the same documents and a lot of the same indicators, and it's set up, and so we're ready to get back on board with that. And we were, they are looking for different topics that come up for review at the education committee, because it's a really, there's a lot of things that happen throughout the district, and then they filter out to other committees. Like you'll see in there that, getting on some of our bigger needs earlier in the year, so that when we go through the budget process, you've heard about the situation, and the one that comes to mind was the guidance counselors at the middle school. We put a lot of time and effort into that, and we heard a lot about it, but it was, kind of, when we were kind of getting to the end of the budget. So if we could have those conversations on the front end, and there's things that you want to hear about, and the process kind of through the ed committee, that's what we're looking forward to do. And teachers like to come and present, because it's what they do every day. We should try to give them as much heads up as we possibly can.
Absolutely. Any questions for Mike in education? Hearing none, we will move on. Policy. Mark.
So the policy committee met, and we discussed two changes to policy, which I think we'll be looking at for first reading. And should we go right to that? And those changes are to the bylaws and to school policy adoption procedure. And basically there was a conflict in the language. The bylaw change, you go to page 3. The bylaws said that items of policy were passed and placed into effect with a minimum of 2/3 of the entire votes. And we consulted with policy expert at the Maine School of Maine School Management Association, and they recommended that that was not typical, and that was kind of a high bar for sort of business policy, and therefore recommended that paragraph be changed to say that the bylaws are passed and placed into effect with a minimum of 2/3 of the entire votes. And the conflict was, if you go to the next, the policy adoption procedure, that had indicated on page 2, and it's not highlighted because there was no change, but it indicated that policies would be approved by a majority vote of board members present and voting. And apparently the change would be weeks. I'm not sure what the significance
Well, we
of
had,
that is.
it didn't say anything, it just said 2, and I just put that in there.
Got it.
And there was nothing, it was like 2 after. So Evelyn and I kind of made that change, we didn't even say 2 weeks, because you want to have some time for a policy to be reviewed and not jump on something without a little bit of time to pass, but it's
So
basically semantics.
the take-home message is that the idea is to remove the conflict between the bylaws and the policy adoption procedure and bring it into line with what I believe most districts do for their policy adoption by removing the language that would have required 2/3 of the entire votes.
We also changed our address. 182 Moosehead Trail is no longer in effect.
Anything else?
About that.
So the bylaw language is going to be changed, or the adoption of the policy is going to be changed?
So it would be removing from the bylaws the requirement that items of policy must be approved by 2/3 of the entire votes on the board.
That's going to be on for next meeting's first reading?
This is the first reading.
So wouldn't that be backwards? If you're changing a bylaw, you want a heavier burden to change a bylaw than you do for a policy adoption.
And that's what that says.
That's really what I thought I just heard, though.
What is being recommended is that the bylaws be changed.
To the 2/3.
No, so that within the bylaws, it's no longer required that items of policy require a 2/3 vote. So our bylaws said policy adoption requires a 2/3 vote.
And we don't want to meet that burden either?
I think the conversation at the policy committee was that it would be extremely difficult for just regular policy motions to get it passed, where we thought bylaws were a lot more important, and that we suggested that it be 2/3.
By caveat, they're both very important according to which
Of course
policy
they
you're
are.
flipping around.
Of course they are.
I don't, so it's a simple majority to pass a policy, make a change in a policy, 50+1, and it's 2/3 to do bylaw changes?
Correct. At this time, I will entertain a motion for that to be the first reading.
Should I make that motion? I would make a motion that we accept these changes for first reading.
Second?
Yep. We have a motion, a second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion?
I think we don't want to be too hasty about this thing, because you could change the whole school by changing the policy manual. And if you're doing a simple majority, it should carry some weight. And right now, I'm a little ignorant of what is there. And so it'd be my suggestion to not hastily throw this through and find out we changed half the school's policies by a 50+1 margin. It may be suitable, but I don't think we should hastily go through a wing, and then all of a sudden, you know, I mean, we are a weighted vote committee, so it's very easy to get a 50 plus 1.
Done.
3 Robert McNeils can outvote, 2 Robert McNeils can outvote me, see, 34.
I just want a point of clarification. Have we been indeed doing that? I thought it was just a majority vote to adopt policy.
The policy adoption procedure said that it was a weighted vote.
Right.
The bylaws said,
But we've been doing it by weighted vote.
it's all weighted vote.
Right, but we have been doing a majority vote for policy change. It's actually not changing how we conduct business, it's just changing the wording in here that we work for.
That is correct, to match what we do. Chris?
The other thing to keep in mind is that the bylaws, the way the bylaws are currently saying is it's 2/3 of the entire votes that are out there. So if it was something we were trying to do during the summer and a few people weren't there, we wouldn't have the full votes being cast and we wouldn't be able to move anything.
Yeah, Evelyn and I were counting the vote, because we thought we had 4 people on. So I'm like, Evelyn, what if we drop another 100 people? We wouldn't have been able to have this, we wouldn't have this conversation, but we would not be able to change the bylaws. Whereas if we had a really important policy, and I get what Paul's saying, but if we had an important policy we needed to get done tonight, and we didn't have the 2/3, but we had a majority, we would be able to get that done. And again, it's first read and then second read, so there's plenty, there is time for conversation.
My theory is if it's a thing that you don't want to see go further, you can say, oh, you got the second read to go through. Well, you've already solved half of your equation. If you pull out all stops if it's something you don't stand for. And that's by shooting down the first read.
Absolutely, and we will have 2 policy committee meetings before the board finally votes on this. So, we definitely discussed and we hashed it out for quite a long time with the last one about this. So if there's any questions or concerns, we're still talking about it. We got 2 months before it comes back for final vote.
But the old adage is if you're against something, you will use every arrow in your quiver to stop it, and stopping it at first read is an arrow. So I think it's dangerous to think about, now that it's come up and we haven't been doing it, so maybe we have to throw the policy manual away, because for a while, for so many years, we haven't been doing what the bylaws have said. And I don't think it's a bad thing to put some heavy weight on policy changes.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed?
Is this a weighted vote?
Yeah.
I just had to say.
Oh, are we counting fours or?
Oh.
We're going to, right. All right, so, those in favor,
Can I go down first?
yes.
Angela?
No.
Susan? Susan?
I guess I'm lost, so I'm sorry. Maybe I should.
Clarification.
We're voting to put it
Okay.
on the board for first read.
Okay.
That's all this is.
First read.
First read.
Yes, that's
All it is.
You're in. You're yes.
agreed,
Yes.
yep.
Dave?
No.
Paul?
No.
Chad?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Melanie?
She's not yes.
Mark? Guzzi?
Yes.
Mark Hanson?
Yes.
Jessica Hoffman?
No.
Robin?
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Tanya?
Yes.
Jason?
Nay.
Janet?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
turned it on.
So it does pass?
No. That's how it's stated. So
Okay.
I don't think that's.
Anything else to add to?
So I'm sorry, it doesn't pass because it's not 2/3? Is that what you were just saying?
No, I was having a second conversation.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Okay.
Okay.
That's because it was a simple way to go, right?
Trent, are you done?
Well, unless I was to go down the rest of the meeting, which was, we then went on to discuss a new policy of student dress code. And looked at the SAB 48, or the RSU 19 dress code, I guess, is inherited from SAB 48 from 1998. And so we looked at a number of examples of more updated student dress codes from the Maine School of Management Association and the Bangor School Department, and had a pretty extensive conversation. Also heard from some of the principals about how they implemented the dress code, and I think we're still looking to sort of finalize a draft policy to present to the board on that.
Any questions for Mark and policy?
I looked for the dress code online, I couldn't find it, just out of curiosity, because I knew that was coming up. Where would can I get a copy of that somewhere?
The present dress code?
I was
I really
I
what
can
it,
email it to you.
or what it entails.
I have it, so I can email it to you.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll have everyone send out.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the dress code, are we actually having an issue with this, or is this we're trying to fix a problem we don't have?
Good question. I think it was very old and objective in terms of what we had, and it was sometimes hard for people to enforce. And we have different grade levels, and we have different things going on with different grade levels, so I think it has the potential to be a problem.
And there already is a problem.
I think it's a problem. I think we heard that.
Like how cropped is a crop top?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Right.
You know, I know it used to be, if you had a hole in your pants, your parents were required to come and pick you up, and you had to go home and change. And I know, because Mr. Winslow drove me home twice because of that. So, but now it's holes in your pants all the way up, holding on by a thread, crop tops barely covering your top, and it's an issue.
So
If only a poll was the issue these
we'll
days.
be discussing this more in policy, so absolutely. No. Okay, transportation. We didn't have a meeting.
We met, but didn't have a quorum. Dean just updated us on the status of our fleet. We got all the springs replaced on, I would say, 80% of our buses. Needed new front springs. Glenn worked his butt off all summer long getting that pallet stack of springs replaced. They're all in working condition. We've got a new dump truck with a sander, poly sander on it now at the bus garage with the plow. So we'll be using that this winter for the bus garage and any cleanup necessary that we need to do. And we got three new buses, Mike, coming this year.
Yeah, it's on the agenda for the budget committee. Yeah, I think it's 3.
And again, with every new bus that we replace, we are reducing the fuel consumption of the bus that it replaces by 1/2. We're going from 4 to 9 and 10 miles per gallon. So, budget committee needs to realize that when they keep cutting transportation. You know, we keep reducing our budget and keep getting it cut, like things like a tire balancer aren't important enough to get put on. So, that's one of those things that just keeps getting forgotten. The transportation department is a very integral part of our system, and every year we save money. So we're at almost, I think we're 3/4 of our fleet now are all Cummins powered. So, and that's been only in the past 7 or 8 years that we started, or maybe close to 10 at this point. At some point we'll be 100% Cummins powered, and that will have reduced our whole operating cost by 1/2.
I assume you had a breakdown today. I rode to school behind one chugging black smoke that was barely moving.
Yes, that was, clamp came off the turbo. I saw the same thing, and I smelled it, and I texted Dean. You know,
I was hoping it wasn't anything big.
I thought it was something big, but
It looked
it was
like
turbo.
motors.
Yeah. Yeah, if it loses turbo, it's got
Yeah.
no power.
Nothing. Well,
Actually
that's,
followed it in.
we're pleased to hear that it wasn't serious.
Yep.
Any other questions for transportation? Tri-county vocational team?
Thursday, next Thursday.
We do not have any meetings in negotiation, extracurricular, or pandemic. So, and no old business.
What pandemic?
New business. Authority to act based on the building committee's recommendation for the former central office building.
As building chair, I would much prefer that whatever we decide there come back to the full board.
Sure. This is just given, we would rather, okay. At this point, if we do that, it'll be March before we sell this building. The townspeople have been asking for that building to be sold for 20 years. I would like to make a motion that we we can act on the recommendation from the building committee as soon as it's made.
Motion and second on the floor. Any discussion on that motion?
I really don't think we need to be heating this building over the course of the winter. It's something that just needs to go away, put the money back in the coffers for next year.
Any other?
Was there a time frame that we had to give the town of Newport to respond to us?
I think it's, I have a letter right now from Bill Stockmeyer. They meet on the 21st and 22nd, so I assume they're going to act really quickly, and I'll ask Jim to do that. I mean, he gave me his response, but it was unofficial. So I think it'll be really quick.
And once we have that, I'm sorry, just to follow up, once we have response, we can then follow up with the realtors?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
So can I clarify the
You
motion?
can.
So it will at least stay within the building committee so that we can meet multiple times if we needed to. Pull
Yes.
the committee together.
Yep. But as soon as that leaves the building committee, I would like to have the superintendent's authority, have authority to put it on the market. Not to go back to the board.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? It passes. Jessica? Thank you. Okay. Staff resignations. Would you like to list them just to make sure everybody's got
Resignations, yep. Sarah McEwen, bus driver, Dustin Bishop, Tech 1, Cheryl Dubay, CED, teacher, Rebecca Charon from cook, Stephanie Ballard Dunham, dishwasher stalker, and Tim McCarthy, grade science.
It does not require any action, so we'll move on to staff nominations.
Yes, that we discussed this a little bit before, where we tried to go with a world language, and we were unsuccessful. So we went with Kitty was willing to come back and do a really focused career development with 7th and 8th grade students, trying to get in touch with our Wilder learning person up here at the high school, get students out into hopefully businesses or bring businesses in and really focus on that for 1 year. And then we did find that we needed some special ed students for remote, for a few of them that have specific reasons why they need to stay that, so that's why we have that person. You can see that Sherry Dubé got done with CED, so Deb Richardson agreed to come back for a year. I think it's a year, right, Mary? Yeah, we're going to re-advertise after the spring. Debbie was willing to come back and do some business. Sarah Holt is out at EDS and will be a substitute until she's certified. She used to be certified as a music teacher. And then Kelly Chapman is an employee with us presently and is going to be a speech person with some support over at Somerset, which is a tough person to.
Mike, is that so that career development position is new?
It used to be world language. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
At the middle school?
Is it grant funded?
Nope, that's a regular person, and the person who's presently in that was on a 1 year. We granted that person 1 year leave of absence to go out west. And then, so that person
That's an
comes back.
expensive replacement.
Yeah.
I thought I saw that, I thought it was advertised for high school career development, no? Or is that a different position?
Yeah, both.
Different position?
Yeah, both.
You have both, okay. I have a quick question about hiring, and it's just a question just so I have in my head. What is the hiring process? Is it different at each school, or is there a policy that's states the same across the district? And do you interview all appropriate applicants? This is a question, just wondering how that goes.
For like a teaching position or an hour?
Any staffing position, what is the policy on hiring?
Well, the ad goes through certain schools and it gets out there, and then they get their pool of applicants, and they could screen them for, are you certified? You know, ideally you'd go certified, have some experience, references, you know, your package complete, and then you interview the people that you feel are qualified and, you know, there.
It's not always everyone.
Well, no, I realize that. I'm wondering, is there a rule that says, like, at the state level, it says if everyone's qualified for this, you have to interview everyone. I'm asking if that's a rule here.
No.
So it's really up to the hiring person.
Committee. Most positions is done by committee.
Okay.
Just quickly, what is the difference between the career development and the JMG, like JRO?
It is JMG.
JMG, yeah.
JMG is more of a targeted audience.
Yes, you have to qualify.
We have that at the middle level as well.
We do,
Yes.
and the middle one's funded, completely not by the district budget.
Yeah, it's a separate school. It's good, actually.
I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the staff nominations
As a block.
as a block.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion?
What's the numbers, Mike?
You will not like it, Paul.
Okay then, what are they?
There's 1 year for Kitty coming back for 76,000.
Say what? Say what?
76. Remote teacher is 74, 23 years of experience.
24, what? The remote teachers what, Mike? I'm losing my glasses. I can't write that.
74. That's a degree, that's a grant position.
That's grant money?
GEDs, Debbie's coming back at 69. And music teacher with 0 years of experience would be very low, Paul.
0 experience?
40,000. Yep. And speech is at 50. And
Yeah, so we're still in discussion mode. What, you say this career development person is for 1 year, and they work with 7th and 8th graders? And what did we have there last year? Nothing? Was somebody?
I can't remember what the teacher was
Perform,
named.
no, but were they performing that job last year?
It was world language. We couldn't find somebody that fit world language, so we put
So, we're swapping a carpenter for a plumber or something? What's going on?
Pretty much.
World language, it was world language. It was teaching language.
Well, like foreign.
Right, some foreign language.
Well, it's kind of a good question. So we're replacing that with career development for, I'm assuming, a higher, not trying to be rude, but a high, quite a high salary. So what is the thought behind that, I guess?
Well, again, it's very difficult to find a world language teacher there.
Sure, of course, I get that,
Okay,
but
and
we're-
so the students still need in their schedule, they need somebody to fill that spot. And Kitty is very experienced. She's going to focus on career development, getting kids out into the trades, bringing people in to discuss careers that they could potentially have. Because we're going to work with the extended learning opportunities over at the high school to try to get kids out and explore their careers. So it's not ideal, because it's not world language, but to put somebody in there who's got a wealth of experience and knows the kids, and it's not for an extended period of time, but it gives those kids an opportunity to explore careers, which is exactly what we've been trying to do.
Sure. Hey, I don't.
I know I'm not. well,
like against that.
it's
I work
like-
with voc rehab. I wanted to know what the thought process was, and was this the salary that was already budgeted in?
No, to be honest with you, no. But we have to look at all our hires, because we have this. Did we hire everybody at 40,000? No. Did we have some at 50? We put some at 60, and then it all irons out. But we could also have left the position empty and had a sub in there, and had, if we wanted to go with a $40,000 sub or an $18,000 sub, we could have put that in there for the kids this year and had a study hall.
Melissa?
I agree that it's a high rate of pay, but my thought too is the middle school was beyond help, needing help with guidance, counselor, kind of social work, those one-on-one kids, and part of Kitty last year, one of the biggest complaints at the middle school last year is that we couldn't get our guidance counselors into the classrooms and that sort of thing. And I know her role isn't a guidance counselor, but I think because of COVID and the behaviors that were being seen in the middle school over the last few years, I think having that extra person with that background is going to be phenomenal for those kids, especially going into the high school and being able to transition right over to career development. I think it's going to be great for these kids. And yes, it is expensive, but this is where we're at.
Well, here's the reason for not taking things as a block. Right then and there. It should never be done. I don't care if you had a list this whole long. This is the reason you should never take it as a block. If we wanted to purge this position, I don't care whose name is there. Some people know her. I don't have any kids in school. I know very few of these people. That's first off. And if we were looking at our budget, you can have lofty and worthy goals of who you want. You know, you might want, who knows? If we have a rocketry class, we should probably see if we can hire Elon Musk, but that's too lofty and too worthy. At some point, we're worried about $6,000 to mow a soccer field, but we're adding all these people in there. I understand you've got to pay them for how long they've been doing the job, but this one right here is probably wonderful to have, but it's easily scratched off this list.
Jessica? So I just want to make sure I understand. So the person that was here before, that income is gone for this fiscal year, and then this is replacing it at a higher rate, correct? So it's really not a $76,000 increase. It's more like a $30-something thousand increase based on the prior person. With that being said, I've witnessed the challenges at the middle school, and this person is extremely talented in what she has done, what she has been able to do in the past. I'm fully on board with spending the extra to bring her on board because she has the best of both worlds, and it is highly needed in the middle school. Anyone that spends a day or an hour with students and can see the challenges that Angela has had to face, this is the perfect person to put in a year position. I agree with her, 100%.
Jason? Just responding to Paul, while I really usually agree with you on stuff like this, I'd like to see where it goes. I've been advocating for the trades ever since I've been on this board. And if this is something that truly is exposing kids to the trades, I want to see it. I'll sacrifice the $30,000. But I really would like to see that. I would like to see that involvement. I would like to see kids exposed to different opportunities that are really out there, not just the fluff.
I'm sure that we will have her back to give
I
us
would-
a report.
I would really like to see that.
Chris?
I'm going to respond to Paul because this is always, you know, you and I have kind of had this thing. I'd like to make a motion to break the clock.
Second.
There is a motion.
Yes, this is a motion about that motion.
So you're amending the
No,
motion?
I'm motioning to break the block. That means we take them individually.
I understand that, that's what it means, but there is
Yeah.
a motion on the floor. So,
You have to make an amendment.
No, it's not an
It's not an
amendment.
amendment.
It's a
Right.
motion
You'd have to-
about
so we
the
would have to do the
procedure.
first motion first.
You have to table the first motion.
Right.
Motion to table the first motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor of tabling the first motion, which is to take the group as a block? Those opposed?
Jason made a motion, who seconded it? Susan?
Well, folks, we get to, you either got to vote one way or the other. I'm not telling you how to vote.
So,
Let's go
motion
back.
to, motion
No, you don't
to,
have to vote. They can abstain. The question-
motion to approve Kitty Mitchell. Career development.
Did the table motion pass?
No,
No? All right.
there wasn't enough vote. So, back at
Yep.
the first motion. And that motion is to
Approve them
accept.
as a block.
Right. So, all those in favor of taking this group as a block, please vote. Those in
As a
favor?
block? As a block.
As a block. Those in favor? Okay, those opposed? It passes. All right, so I will entertain a motion to,
Who made the vote? We already had the motion.
right,
Right, we were just voting on that motion, because it never got tabled.
So that was a list on the table.
right,
So what you're looking for is a motion to...
to accept the block.
We already did.
We just did.
We just accepted the block.
Actually, the motion was to vote as, take them as a block, but that doesn't necessarily accept them.
Didn't change it.
No,
The vote was, Alyssa's
accept them as a
initial
block.
vote was to accept them as a block.
right.
Motion to hire these 5 individuals.
We already approved it.
Okay, moving
I was
along.
voting the same way, don't know.
Staff appointments.
I lost.
Yep.
Emily Morton is an Ed Tech 3, an interventionist over at Somerset. Rachel Haviland, Ed Tech 3, special ed at Nokomis Regional Middle School. Pam Buckland, Ed Tech 2, PK, at Sebastic Valley Elementary School. Marcy Robinson, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Somerset. Amanda Levesque, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Somerset. Jessica Hawthorne, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Somerset. Not that one.
I recognize that.
Daniel Heinrichs, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Nokomis Regional High. Andrea LeBrecq, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Nokomis Regional High. Caitlin Stafford, a cook, EDS. Leah Silva, server at Nokomis Regional High School. Courtney Arsenal, server at High School. Richard Candido, custodian, Nokomis Regional High and Middle School. Bethany Walters, Ed Tech 2, special ed, Somerset. Brittany Turner, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Nokomis Regional High School. Stephanie Joseph, Ed Tech 1, special ed. Nokomis Regional, Ed Tech 1, special, Nokomis Regional. And let's do the other ones. Bethany Walters, Ed Tech 2, special ed, Somerset. Brittany Turner, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Nokomis Regional High School. Stephanie Joseph, Ed Tech 1, special ed, Nokomis Regional Middle School. So there's 20 new hires. It's not been easy to hire. We've gone through 30 applicants multiple times, and these committees work really hard to try to make the best person in front of the kids, whether it's a special ed tech or whoever else it is. It's not an easy job. And I'm glad we're not Lewiston and have 100 openings. And we have 2 transfers, Edie Randall, Ed Tech 3, special ed, Nokomis Regional Middle School to EDS for the Life Skills Program, I believe, and Kathy Kimball, Ed Tech 3, special ed, Nokomis Regional Middle School to Somerset.
How many vacancies we currently facing, Mike, roughly?
We still have my sheet's up to date. September 12th, we have one central office person, 3 vacancies as far as teachers, because those music teachers are still out there. And the JROTC, although I think we have some people the people are in the classroom teaching in front of the kids right now, but those 3 are opening. Food Corps, I think it's Sebastic, maybe filled. We still have 5 ed techs. 5 ed techs still. And Ed Tech 2 for special ed at the grant position, interventionist, food service. So I'm still looking at 15. Some maintenance and custodians.
15, Mike?
15.
Any future agenda
Can I
items?
ask a question on these?
Sure.
I'm just, I was going through these nominations and I'm so confused. So we have one person that's on step 2 with 1.5 years experience at $13.91, but then we have someone else that's on step 3 with 3's experience but is paid less. So, Ed Tech, right, but this is Ed Tech 1 that's getting less, but the experience, so what is the qualification difference?
Ed Tech 1 is just a high school diploma. Ed Tech
Okay.
2, you have a little bit more, like, you're taking some classes or associate.
Okay, it's just not showing on this form then? Okay, thank you. Lewiston actually lost 21 people as of Friday on the 10 that they hired, so we're looking pretty great compared to some schools.
Right. Any future agenda items that you would like to?
My Plymouth people are asking if there will maybe soon be an official name change at Plymouth to Benedictine School.
And that's what I was going to speak to, the building.
That's fine.
I think
We've been referring it to as EDPS anyway, so
Yes, and people mostly do, but
it's not written on the
It
wall.
needs to be official.
It does need to be official, and I think we need to go, so probably not tomorrow night, but, because there's a lot. But I think it definitely would get on an agenda for discussion, people can come, and I think we were very thoughtful and methodical in how we did this building and changing the other one, so I think we need to go through that same process. We asked for some public input, we did an online survey, we did a hand ballot survey, which, in my opinion, would be, that committee would go through that same process to make it authentic, and people can have their voice, because I know there's thoughts on both sides now.
Yeah, but no part of Plymouth's inside the school.
Moving along, Paul. Moving along. Future agenda items. Anything that you'd like to discuss?
You wouldn't want to get me started.
Okay. I changed my mind. If not, we are adjourned.
Thanks, Matt.
Did you figure out the specs on the,
Yeah.
I got 2 whole nasty messages.
250 gallons.
Nope.